Hey Albert, I hope all is well. Happy May. Today I'll be going through your website and my notes on your presentation. Our goal for this assessment is to really identify the strengths and weaknesses of your presentation and provide specific feedback on how you can refine it moving forward. What really stood out to me is your natural and authentic approach to lifestyle photography. This really would stand out to clients and would appeal to clients, especially as they're going for more natural and authentic lifestyle advertorial work. And you have such strong storytelling skills, so that's really the strength of your portfolio. What's also nice is that you keep a cohesive style and voice throughout your whole portfolio. So whether you're doing corporate lifestyle, the sports and fitness, brand narrative work, and especially your military lifestyle, you can see that your style and voice consistent throughout each project. Something that I had noticed as I was also going through your website, though, is that you have quite a variety of work. This isn't inherently bad per se, but it is harder to find or harder to get a sense of exactly what you do. And while it is clear that you are a lifestyle photographer, because you do quite a variety of projects, this can be hard for clients to be able to specifically pinpoint out, the work you've done that would be relevant to them. So right now, your work is separated into two categories: in life and in service. And in terms of navigation, I think that in service is a much stronger category or section, because as soon as I click into this section, I get a sense of what kind of work I would expect. And it's military lifestyle work. So because you call that out in your navigation, clients who are looking for that kind of work can go straight to this category. So I think you do a great job there. However, in life, it's not as intuitive or as direct. You start with an overview page and then go into the sports, fitness, lifestyle galleries, followed by a couple corporate lifestyle galleries and a few more projects following that are a mix of other work. And you have some great projects here. It's just harder to find that work because it's generalized in this lifestyle section. So for this part of your website, I would recommend, as you do in service, that you direct clients specifically to projects that would be relevant to them. So for example, if I were Apple and Tesla, I would either want to see brand narrative lifestyle work, where you're telling a story about a brand, or maybe corporate lifestyle work if they wanted to do a campaign about this new product that they're releasing and, document that process from beginning to end of the employees concepting and creating that product. And then if I was Wired or Monocle or Fast Company, then I'd want to go into more of your editorial leaning stories, like the stories that you've done for local or about local artists, like Guy Okazaki surfboards, Chairman Ting, or even some of that corporate lifestyle work where maybe they're featuring a specific company and or brand, and their readership can get an inside look at the workings of that company, or maybe, they're doing a feature on this leading tech engineer who created a product that's changing the way we think about technology, stories like that where it's more about a person. They would probably most likely be interested in seeing. And then if, I were SpaceX or Virgin Galactic or even Tesla, then I would probably want to go into in service where you have some work with a little of aviation, and it's a little where you show experience, where photographing aircrafts, people building aircrafts and experience documenting these situations and being in harsher situations or like an industrial space, I would imagine that they'd be interested in this kind of work. So the more that you can pinpoint and prioritize the work that you want potential clients to see, the more likely they are to want to navigate through your website. Because at the moment, as I go from one project to the next, because the next project is so different from the other, it just starts to feel disconnecting and confusing. Whereas if you could pinpoint to or be more direct as to what clients can expect as they click into each project or category, potential clients can then just really focus on that kind of work and see how you've created that kind of work. So in terms of reorganizing your projects and prioritizing which projects you want to show to potential dream clients, I would recommend showing your corporate lifestyle work first. So projects like Chiaro, Enrique's Partners Architects, and Absolute Pulse. I think what's really nice about these projects is one where your style and voice really shows here, your strengths in storytelling also are highlighted here. You have this clean, minimal aesthetic that I think really appeals to clients like Apple, Tesla, and Wired, where they're really about software and technology, and I think your style and aesthetic lends to that, their aesthetics really well. Like when I think Apple and Tesla, I think something clean, white, minimal. So I think that would stand out to those companies, and especially because you've documented these companies that work closely with technology, I think that's definitely a plus. And when I look at this kind of work, I connect clients to this kind of work. Again, if they wanted, a company wanted to show off a product that they're making and then also show off, the engineers and the employees behind this product, I think your work really fits well there. Of all the projects that I had mentioned, I would probably say that Absolute Pulse stands out the most visually and edit wise. So compared to Chiaro and Enrique's Partners Architects, this feels more like a fully fleshed out project. I like these detail shots here where you get a look at the details of this thing that they're making. You get to see the process from when they're assembling it, then when they're testing it out, and then a little bit about the final product. So you really have a visually diverse project that you're presenting on your website. And I think this is really strong. You really did a great job here. That I would like to see your approach to this edit and this project similarly in Enrique's Partners Architects and Chiaro. Typically, in terms of edit, we recommend for projects 15 to 20, maybe 25, but that might be pushing the amount of images for it to feel like a fully fleshed out project. In Absolute Pulse, you had these great shots of the product before and after assembly that I would love to see that here too, maybe where we can get images of the models before they were put together, and then maybe closer details as to what that looks like. More images maybe of like the blueprints, what technology they use. I mean, you do a really great job. Like I like this image and like the next image, and probably the image before that too, where you see the interaction between these employees. Again, very natural, which is awesome. But I think a more diverse group of shots where you really hone in on a detail and then pull out a little bit more to get some more wide shots, really provide a sense of place. Maybe you can also get an exterior of the building, or maybe even a wider shot of all the employees would also kind of give it a sense of, would also provide more information about how big this company may be. Just small details like that can help this project feel more fully fleshed out. Similarly, in Chiaro, again, just that, or the images that can show the process of these designers creating the project from beginning to end, and really filling it in the details, filling it in with some more details can strengthen this project. And I remember reading about this project on our blog too, which was really interesting. And I wish I could see, the final product of the packaging, because to my understanding, it's been a while since I watched it. It was design firm creates package design and branding design for CBD companies. So, what is information from that story there that you can add in here visually that can tell that story without that line of text? What you do here that I think is really a nice addition in comparison to Enrique's Partners Architects and Absolute Pulse is that you have these portraiture shots. It's a really nice addition because it gives us more, or it gives us a better sense of who the designers are, and giving us a sense of their personality, which is a really nice touch that I think clients will also enjoy seeing. Not just how you tell a story, not just how you document this lifestyle, but being able to tell a story about who these people are. So I think that's what you do really well here. Something I did notice though when we look in the thumbnail view is that the vertical shots get cut off, so that can be a little distracting because you don't get to view the full image, and here her eyes get cut off. This might just be personal preference, because granted we can click into this image, but if someone wanted to do a quick look through your website, this may be a little distracting. So if possible, if there's a template that you can have, the thumbnails can be more varied so that you can have space for the vertical shots, I think that can also elevate your presentation a little more. As I mentioned before, lifestyle brands who are looking for more brand narrative work, in a sense, this corporate lifestyle work can technically be brand narrative because you're telling a story about a brand, but on the corporate side, inner workings behind the scene, that can potentially be a branch of brand narrative. But on the other side of the coin is the lifestyle work where you're really telling a story about a product rather than a person. Lifestyle brands would also be looking for that kind of work. And I can see that you're starting to do that with Yoga with Sienna and Adidas Women. And again, I think your style and voice here are really great. Even though it's not that clean white aesthetic, I think the way that you handle light, direct your subjects, photograph your subjects, and just that natural, authentic approach helps ties these projects or your portfolio in together. So you do a great job there. And this work is very beautiful. I would say what's missing is having more information about the product that you're trying to sell. So whereas with Yoga with Sienna, this feels to be more of a project about the instructor rather than the clothing she's wearing. And I think just by simply adding more detailed shots where you get a prominent image of the brand, whether it's in the top or the leggings, or even if she has a bag or a yoga mat, that can shift this project from the story about the instructor to the story about the brand. And especially where she's really like twisting her body or stretching. And if you can get the brand in there, then you're also talking about the product and the quality of that product, where it's a very durable fabric and it's very flexible. And, look at all the things that you can do with this clothing brand, and it's never going to slip off, or, things like that. Details you want to sell about the product. that's definitely going to be something that lifestyle brands will be looking for. I think you do actually a great job here in this image because we see that brand here. And if you had a whole project where she's exercising with a robe and she's running around and jumping and stretching, like that, I think would be a very strong project to add to your website. I think you also do a great job in Adidas Women, where we get these really strong action shots and we can start to see, the brand logo in the images. As I mentioned, probably just pulling in a little bit more and getting getting the brand logo more prominent can just really fill in for these brand projects. And I would actually recommend this not even just for the sports fitness lifestyle work, but for any brand lifestyle project that you do. Just try and get, those brand logos in there because it gives it a sense of context. It's not just any sports and fitness lifestyle work. It's not just any corporate lifestyle work. It's sports and fitness lifestyle, corporate lifestyle work for this company. So you can really attract clients if you can show them, yeah, you can do that for them as well. I'm not sure how many images you have from each of these kinds of projects, but at the moment, I think that if you're still trying this out, filling out your portfolio with this kind of work, and maybe you don't have enough to fill out a project gallery with 15 to 25 images, then I would say that it may be best to be in a general overall specialty gallery where you can have 20 to 30 images and you just group project images from the same projects together. So you can have maybe 4 to 5 images from Adidas Women, Yoga with Sienna, and 4 to 5 images there, and so on and so forth. And then you can have a really tight edit specifically for this kind of work, and you have visually diverse shots, and it would still be a strong gallery, and it would still be work that commercial clients will be into. Something that I actually do want to touch up on, because you have this overview page. So an overview page can be very challenging. It's really hard to put together an overview page without it feeling disconnecting, especially if you do a wide variety of work. It can be disconnecting to clients if they're not understanding, if it's harder to understand exactly what you do, and you're just showing a wide variety of work, that if it's not easy for them to get a sense of what you do, then they're less likely to stay on your site. And that's really a big challenge with overview pages. Something else that you can run into is that it can also be hard to update an overview page, because you have to account for all this other work that you have on your website, and then think about the sequencing. Where does it fit? Again, how can you put this all together without it feeling disconnecting? Which I can definitely see that you put a lot of thought into this page, and I think you really had a strong start here. But as you start to scroll down, that's where it starts kind of feeling disjointed, that it may be best, or I would say it would benefit your portfolio stronger if you had a new or featured project page, rather than an overview, because then you can really just hone in on the work that you're currently working on, or your latest work that you're most proud of, that you think that clients would really be into. That can go here, and you can have a smaller selection of images, probably similar to a projects gallery. Around 15 is, I would say, a good rule of thumb, where you have a smaller selection that can tease into the rest of your site. And then here in the newer and features projects page, again, you can show off your latest work that you're most proud of. Give them a taste of your photographic style and voice. Show them your strong storytelling skills, and still showing work that is relevant to clients. So especially, again, like brand narratives work, if you can tell a story about a brand and create a highly produced shoot, like that's going to appeal to clients. And especially your natural and authentic aesthetic an approach to photography, I think would really also appeal to them. So just a few thoughts about overview page, and also why I wanted to go into that out after going through these two projects, because I think you can group this work that you've been doing, put together a smaller selection, pick some really visually diverse, strong images, add in those detail shots, and I think you have a stronger starting or landing gallery. And especially because before we start in before we get into this page, we also have an overview slideshow. So you can probably still keep that and then just, again, be more direct about the work that you do. And then going into those to your other categories. Again, just a few thoughts on that. I'll go back into your other projects. So we had talked about the corporate lifestyle work. Again, I think that can be the first priority. Potentially the brand narrative, sports, fitness, lifestyle, potentially as a featured work or new work, or maybe even the second category that you can get into. Next, I would recommend then going into your in-service projects, because as I had mentioned, this is work that definitely would be relevant to commercial clients, especially if you have had experience with photographing automotives and vehicles. And, as we had talked about, your military lifestyle work also sets you apart from other photographers. I don't think I really see that very often. And if this were the second and third gallery, I think that's a nice spot for this work, because military lifestyle work is also so niche that if you were to start off with that, then I think you would actually brand yourself as a military lifestyle photographer rather than a general lifestyle photographer. So I would probably put this following your corporate lifestyle gallery. Again, just a cohesive style and voice throughout, even though it's a little more gritty, but your tones, your natural, authentic approach, clean compositions, really, again, cohesive voice here. Beautiful shots. And what I think also stands out about you having done military lifestyle work is that you can be in an intense situation and still capture these beautiful images. And again, just visually diverse shots here. For this section, and generally in any section or category, I would recommend probably only 2 to 3, at most 4 projects to show within that section. I think what I noticed that after the 4th project, it can feel repetitive, and you would also want to choose really unique projects. So what stood out to me were reconnaissance. This is a pretty strong project. Again, I think beautiful imagery, visually diverse, unique. Each image is so unique, and really fills in a story. Like these detail shots here are so beautiful, next to some of these more pulled back landscape shots. And I think you're really capturing the essence of what it means to be in the military. It's gritty, it's tough, but you make it seem so beautiful, and a little aspirational, which is great. So I think this is definitely a strong project to keep in your portfolio. I would also say, along the same lines, QRF. Such a beautiful starting shot here. And these couple images are really great. I would say actually that in comparison to the previous project, that this feels a little bit more posed and less natural, as I've seen throughout your work. But what I admire about this project is I can definitely see this in a campaign for the military, to gain recruits and to show the lifestyle. So that's strong here. Whereas in reconnaissance, I think, and I really hope I'm saying that right, here where I think you have a more fully fleshed out project, I would like to see that in QRF as well, where maybe we get to see more of the papers and maybe details and plans, what is happening in between that we switch into these scenes. I think that would definitely really strengthen this project, and I probably would recommend for this site, or for you to keep on your site. Search and rescue was another project that really stood out to me. Again, great starting shot here. I like the perspective. I can see this in the campaign where or maybe they want to highlight, the work that the search and rescue team does. And what stands out here is that this project is so different from the rest. There's a different uniform, so this seems to be a different team. So you're not just doing it for maybe one specific team under the Department of Defense. So this adds some visual diversity to your portfolio. Again, I would probably just say is to fill in this project with, shots that can just kind of weave this story together more, where okay, they're in the air, now they're landing. Are there shots of them going down, and they open the parachute, maybe them prepping, is there anything in their uniforms that has their branding on it? You can kind of see that you could see it in some of their images, but you kind of get a sense, especially with the difference in uniform. I do want to comment about this shot because I think that this is such a great addition to your website. Again, just showing evidence that you've worked with aircrafts before, you've been in this situation, you have experience with this, with clients like Tesla, Virgin Galactic, and SpaceX, or really any automotive vehicle clients. I think I had mentioned before that they really want to see that you have experience doing it, because it's such a niche, well, not niche, but photographing vehicles requires such skill, and being in an industrial environment or in intense environment requires experience and skill as well in taking these beautiful shots. So that I think this would really stand out and puts you in a better place to be able to say yeah, I can do that work for you, and you have some receipt for it. Speaking of receipts and experience working in an industrial environment, I want to talk about air operations, because that also stood out to me, because again, it's just so different from the others where you're not just on the ground. You also have these shots of them tuning up the aircraft and fixing things up, and you have these detail shots of them working on it. Again, that's what I would imagine in another coin of brand narrative, is how a product is products being made can also be brand narrative work. How are you photographing the technology, photographing these people working on that technology? Are you able to get those details? That's something that clients would want to look for. And then this final product shot is really great, because then you get to see how it turns out, or close to final product shot they're putting in the blades. But just images like this, I can definitely imagine in an industrial campaign, or maybe it's being used in some kind of brochure, or even on a company website, if it's a manufacturing company, and it could be on the landing page or something. So it's stuff that really sticks out when clients are looking at your site. Can they imagine this on their site as well? For this project, I would probably say, as I've been saying, to really flesh it out more, but also to create the connections between this shoot and this shoot, because they seem like two different shoots. Is this the before and this is the after? Why is this in color and then why is this in black and white? Are these two separate projects that can just be separated out? I would probably want more information about this gallery, because these two feel a little disconnected. In regards to the other projects that you have on your website, I think they're definitely still pretty strong projects, but the ones that stood out to me, as I had mentioned, I can imagine them in commercial campaigns, whether it's on a website, on a brochure, maybe on a billboard. It's stuff like that really stood out. The other projects, again, beautiful images, like in winter in Yakistan. I I love this here, like such a beautiful picture, even though it's such a heavy picture, and that it's attached to violence. But that's such a beautiful shot along with this image here. But this doesn't feel as relevant to clients, though these are such beautiful work. Yakima and Spring. I mean, I love this detail shot. I love these detail shots here. But what sets this apart a little from the other projects, and what holds me from saying to keep this on the site, is that whereas we saw in QRF, where they're like happy to be there and it's aspirational, here it's a little bit more hard hitting. And I think that is definitely part of this kind of work, and it's definitely part of the story for being in the military. But then this starts to kind of lean more towards reportage, where you're documenting real life as it is happening. So that's my interpretation of projects like this, similar to Griffin Warrior 2. And then Glock is really just kind of these still life images, an illumination. These projects just don't seem to add more context to your work, and isn't adding more than what we're already seeing. But again, still great stuff. Just consolidating it to fewer amount of images. And again, it's also then easier for you to just recycle the projects and just showing your latest work. So it can also make, updating your website much easier and faster. Last but not least, I would say that for your navigation, to then add after in-service your stories on local artists and artisans, especially projects like Gaia Kozaki surfboards and Chairman Ting are so strong. I really like what you're doing as and when you're telling a story here. Again, these detail shots are so beautiful, and it's just cool to see the process and learning more about this artist. Same thing with Gaia Kozaki surfboards, because this is, I think, also a unique project. Your style and voice just really lends to these kinds of projects. Again, we're just naturally capturing the subject doing their thing. So these are a couple cool projects. I do want to just quickly touch up on here where you have this floating text. Something that I noticed is that, well, one, that this is currently really hard to read, especially when it's overlaid over a busy picture. Oh, there it is. But it seems like you have to be in a specific part of the page to read this, and it's less intuitive. And this line of text can be really nice to introduce the project. Again, to just provide more context. Granted, ideally, you would want to be able to just tell the story without the line of context, but if someone wanted to read more, this is great. It's just hard to find. So if you wanted to do a written introduction, then I would recommend either having a blurb of text somewhere on the page, if that's a capability. Maybe if it was like here, I know there's a Squarespace template that allows captions here, or if you just had an image description as a picture to introduce each project, then you can do that. And add that, and then that's like the first thing that you can land on, introduce the project, and then you can go on to the next image. So just some thoughts on that. But back to the other, I guess, makers and doers projects, I want to talk about Wanting Q and Bespoke Bridal. I think these images are really interesting. Again, like here, I think really, again, it's works really well with your overall style and voice, this clean, white, minimal look. But I will say what I've previously already said, and again, I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but it's just thinking about the visually diverse shots. If we could get more images of the materials or images of her. I don't need to go on because I feel like I've pushed it onto your brain. But just bringing it in so that you can have a fully fleshed out project, bringing in those details or just bringing in visually diverse images. If you don't feel like you have enough to really expand out a 15 to 25 project gallery, then I think it's also fine to have the makers and doers gallery be just a specialty gallery, again grouping similar projects together, 4 to 5 images, maybe 6, depending on how many diverse images you have, visually diverse images you have, and putting that into one main gallery, and like having that as your final or one of the last galleries you have on your website. I would say with Wanting Q, it's less relevant to the clients you want to reach, whereas I think Guy Okazaki and Chairman Ting are a little bit more relevant. I still think it's really nice that you have this kind of work just to set yourself off a little bit, or just even showing projects that you're really passionate about, and want to show clients, hey, like this is the work that I do outside of working for clients, and this is what I'm passionate about, and it's still somewhat relevant to your portfolio. Whereas, if we go into VSO, it's not as so much. This is definitely a lot more, or this feels a lot more editorial, or reportage. I'm not seeing really much indication about, what who this orchestra is, who this person is. There's just not much information or imagery that's standing out here that I haven't seen already in your other stronger work. So I would recommend, if you wanted to do more of this, work for more relevant clients to this kind of client, to put this in an orphan link. With Level Furnished Living and Fairmont Pacific Rim, this is also pretty strong work, but in comparison to, again, as we had seen, this feels like it's starting to clash with your other work. I think these are great projects for lifestyle hospitality clients. I do think you do a great job here at really telling the story about maybe like a certain brand, like especially here because we see the brand logo in a few images. But I would say this speaks less to your style and voice, because this feels more posed and staged and less natural that I've seen in your other projects. This is starting to target a different set of clients than we had kind of talked about on our call and what I've seen in your questionnaire. So I would recommend withholding that and also putting that in maybe in an orphan link. And just, again, really just hone in on the projects that you want to show your dream clients. And if there's other work that's out there, that are like, oh, what, I want to do that. I've done similar work, if you're talking to maybe a hospitality client, maybe it doesn't need to be in your main navigation, but in that orphan link, you can just say, here's some sample of that work. And they can really only focus on that, on those projects, but those projects wouldn't be in your main navigation, where it can potentially disconnect the clients you really want to reach. I'm just going to quickly add in a couple thoughts about the last couple galleries. With Jeff Wall, you can probably keep that along with the makers and doers projects. As we had talked about with fully fleshed out projects, if you can expand it, you can do that with this project. If not, you could probably just group this with other projects and have that one specialty gallery. I think that can work, because especially with this project, I think your style and voice shines here as well. With Grace Park, I would probably say to keep this project in an orphan lake. I mean, the images are beautiful, but as we were talking about with some of your projects in service, it's just not giving me much more information or adding much more or showing me anything different than what we've already seen in your stronger projects. And I'm not really connecting clients to this project. So you can probably put this in an orphan link or on your Instagram to show other work that you've done outside of work for clients. So those are my thoughts on that. I'm going to quickly go into your about and contact page. I really like your bio, the way that you describe your work and really provide more information about yourself and get, your clients to get to know more about you. I would say I would like to see your headshot larger just to create that personal connection. It's pretty small compared to the line of text above, which creates a weird level of hierarchy in terms of design, where I would say that the first thing that I think should pop up is your headshot and your portrait, and then the line of text following. I would say that this text here potentially clashes with this text here because it starts to feel like you have two different bios. And it seems like you're saying something similar in both cases, just different wording. So I would probably just pick one or the other, just against being more direct without feeling like or potentially overwhelming the page with so much text. But I think in general, overall, great job. I think what would also be a nice addition would actually be a list of clients. So you talk about that a little bit here. But I think also naming clients that you've worked for that are relevant to your dream clients would be a really strong touch, and pinpointing to, the work that you're currently doing as well. Would be great for your clients to get to know you more. So that's my recommendation for your about page. Just some quick thoughts. Contact page, great. Very simple and minimal. I would say that commercial and editorial photographer can feel a little vague. It's not very descriptive of what it is you do. And I would describe you more as a lifestyle photographer, telling brand stories for lifestyle brands, corporate clients, and the like, and also telling authentic stories about people for publications. Something like along the lines where it's a little bit more specific to your clientele, will provide more information about you. You've added your location, which is awesome. You've hyperlinked your email. That's awesome. Phone number, great. So other than like this little blurb, I think your contact page is solid. I'm not sure what this information is. It could just be a template thing. I wouldn't say it's distracting. Just curious to know what those numbers are. I want to talk about your branding and template really quickly. I think it's pretty solid, really. I think it's really strong. Your branding and the template that you're using reflects your style and voice very well. So the presentation of the website in regards to the template and your brand style and voice are really complementing each other when I'm looking at your work. So that I think you've done a great job on that. Branding is minimal, not too distracting, but still has a little bit of personality, and again, I think works really well for your work. I'm not sure if I had mentioned this earlier, but when we go into your galleries, we go into the first image is a large image rather than a thumbnail view, and this just might be a personal taste, but I would recommend having the thumbnail view first so that potential clients or visitors to your website, any visitor, has the option to just see your work overall and then click into the images that really stand out to them, especially if clients don't have a lot of time to really browse through work. If they just want to go in and out of a project, then they don't have to continuously click in and out of thumbnail and large view when they go into their next project. So just some thoughts on that. You had also mentioned that you were looking to add a blog on your website. I think this can be a great addition to your website. It can be a useful tool for increasing your SEO and keep clients up to date with what's you're working on, what's happening in your professional life. You can add some behind the scenes shots, shot outtakes, announcements of new work. It can be a very useful tool in that end. That being said, I think that blogs can also be really hard to maintain. Really depends on your level of comfortability with updating it, and we recommend updating it every month in order to kind of stay relevant or even just to keep the blog alive. A dead blog can actually be more hurtful for you if Google or SEO on something along those lines aren't are seeing that it's not very active, so it can actually hurt your website. So if you feel comfortable, just being able to update it once a month, you don't really have to write a whole huge novella about the projects that you're working on. You can just do quick visual updates, and just like quick blurbs of what you're working on. I think a blog will definitely be a great addition to your website. But if not, then it's like really better to have no blog at all than a dead blog. And you can always also move your updates to Instagram too, and just making sure that that's always active, because that's in the end too. I would say that having an active Instagram is a lot more useful and probably a more successful tool in marketing, for that to always be active. So those are my thoughts on your website. It was really great to again take a look through your website. I'm sure I've given you quite a to-do list and overloaded you with information, but I hope I've presented it in a way that's easy to digest. As I'd mentioned, you have just such great work. That the next step really is just to reorganize and prioritize the work that you want to do. And you've already identified clients that you want to reach. So it's just keeping those clients in mind and what you think they'll be interested in or would want to see, and being direct with that in your navigation is just going to put you in a better place when you're doing your marketing. And then if you find that as you're putting this together, you're maybe are missing some work that you haven't been able to shoot yet, but potential clients would really be interested in seeing, then you can always continue doing some more self-assigned projects. And as I was mentioning, filling in those projects with details. I mean, it seems like you do have that close attention to detail, that maybe it's just a matter of just adding those images back into your website, if you had kind of tightened it up before, because you have quite the tight edit, but expanding it a little bit more, creating those fully fleshed out projects, creating those brand stories, again, just will put you in a better place in front of clients, and really show your strengths. I know that you had talked to Brian about doing an edit, so we can talk about that on our call. We'll also talk about this assessment on our call, any questions you may have, and maybe next steps if you're still interested in doing an edit. But talk to you soon. Stay well until then. In the meantime, just don't hesitate to reach out with any questions as well. Thanks, Albert.